And then do I have to go back to YouTube to make sure it's private, right? Because I don't want it to be. I'm trying to keep it up.
I'm curious. What did you already click through and press OK and everything?
Yeah.
All right. I'm curious actually what happens now. I haven't fully tested it.
Well, let's act as though the world's watching.
I love it. Yeah. Maybe bring up another browser and mute it so we can see what's happening on your chin. Oh, I can do it. So yeah, your it says Andreas Conspiracy with live stream with Patrick.
Interesting.
Is there a way to change that name? Andreas Conspiracy with live stream.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. Hold on. Well, guys, as you're watching, you know we're
this is very experimental.
Yeah, we're learning how to make a gathering happen. So let's call this the fascinating interview with Bill Ottman.
Say something like live from Minds or Minds.com or something like that.
Yes.
Minds.com stream with Ian and Bill or something.
Minds co-founder live stream with Bill Ottman and Ian Crossland. Well, it automatically goes to public, so that's
it does. That's good to know. Yeah, it's still showing the old title, which is interesting. Hey, what's up?
Give it about 13 seconds. I think it'll be good now because I pressed save just right before you asked.
Okay.
So there's people here that are like watching, and so we can actually answer some questions.
What do you want to talk about, man?
Is Ian gonna be here? Or is he?
He was here. I don't know. He's dealing with some stuff.
Well, this is pretty fantastic. Everyone, so let me do a quick introduction on Bill Ottman. Bill Ottman's the CEO, right? Is that what you are? Of Minds.com. And so Minds.com is a very interesting thing. It's a social network that kind of does a lot of the things all the other networks don't do. And a lot of the things they do, but better. And one of the parts I think we're all worried about is censorship, and we're worried about gathering of information and vocalizing people that are whispering and getting people that are loud quieter. So Minds.com, and hey, Ian's here. There you go. What you don't know, Ian, is that we're live right now because this went public instantly when we started doing the feed. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So Ian, by the way, I want to introduce really quickly. I think that's the best way to know why this is happening, because I know Ian. Ian was a buddy of mine when we lived at the house that it was a Jim Morrison's house, and he lived in the front, I lived in the back, and back in Venice Beach. And we, years gone by, did different projects. Then we ended up, going to Peru. He had this project Baylin cleaning up the Amazon that we became a part of. And then he's, he'd been working with Bill, and Bill's been doing this project for Minds. And that's what got us into, we should talk to you guys. So, people know what this is about. That it's like what it is, because it's not like the other networks. It's a lot smaller and a lot more honest.
Yeah, I should respond because that was about me in the middle of there. But yeah, dude, Minds is a publicity tool for basically putting out good energy, good effort, like cleaning the Amazon, things like that. I don't know if Jim Morrison lived in that house. It was literally the 59 Navy Street. It's like a museum. Go check it out. It's fenced in. A couple of the doors lived there. I think it was Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek, but I could be wrong. Dude slept
in the upstairs in the back. So I don't know, 59 in the front. It's like the top story room, right where you look at the Davy Jones liquor locker. But
oh yeah, good room. I did
antiquated history, but yeah, definitely the legend. But more important,
I partied hard in that house. They called it the Madhouse. Yeah, it was just raving parties, and that's how I met Andreas. And then we got serious.
Basically, it's a good story.
So,
we went to Amazon.
When I met Andreas, Judd said, "You got to meet my buddy Andreas. You'll love him." I didn't think much of it, but it turned out that Andreas was the smartest person I ever met. And so I'm glad to have him here.
Well, right back at Ian. Ian's one of the most genuine, smart, talented, and accomplished. He's an accomplished person, and some of those things are hard to get by. And he's also older than me, so but you can't tell because he's basically immortal, which is pretty neat. Nice plus, but
I don't know. He looks a little tired right now.
It's probably the coffee.
He does look like he's been working for the. He's been working a lot.
Yeah.
You can get one of these mugs, by the way, to support the company. I think you can get them on, what is the website where you can buy these right now? Anybody know?
Teespring.
Teespring. Oh, yeah. I got some shirts from Teespring. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So, but then Bill. How did you end up knowing Bill? How'd that all work out?
Bill contacted me through YouTube videos. It just comes down to online video. Like the power of the proliferation. So yeah, Bill made me a internet video, and I guess I didn't respond because it was too hectic. And then he made me another one and did psychic energy, and I realized he could see the future, and I basically trust him 100% after that.
Yeah, the first video I saw Ian doing was, I don't know, he was sitting in, I think, his Venice apartment, and he was wearing like these holographic fractal goggles and just talking about crazy shit. And I sensed that there was something interesting there with just totally authentic, unfiltered streaming. And that's where things are going. That's what people want. Because that's all that's interesting. So we were starting up a new social video company. And just for anyone who doesn't know, right now we're streaming from minds.com in the Tartaria group. So you're gonna have to find Andreas, and you can come and chat with us here in this group. We're trying to use less proprietary surveillance tools. So like we could be using YouTube to, we're kind of using YouTube right now, but we're at least trying to use our own tech. And that's what the whole project is about, basically. Regaining control over our technological tools with free and open source software, and not just simply using Google and Facebook because it's easy. And so we're trying to push ourselves to build something that can compete. It's obviously not easy.
It's funny. Also, you were saying that I guess I should have mentioned that YouTube streams and like YouTube creators and stuff. One of the reasons I never really did all this stuff like as much as just actually looking at Ian as the Jimi Hendrix of video vlogs back in the early days. He was one of the first guys. In fact, he was like one of the first YouTube creator partners. Is something I've been actually going to talk about. Coming back to get you on here is like you could have invented a lot of that stuff.
I would argue that I was the Bob Dylan because I was the annoying kid that was like just standing around all the cool kids until I got cool. Like I refused to give up, and they're like, "Who the fuck is that guy?"
YouTube offered him at Ian. No. I'm Ian Crossland. Don't worry. There's other Ians out there. It's like this guy. Yeah, like
Dude, getting people jazzed about the free and open source movement is, I feel like it's one of the more challenging tasks in the world because it's like 80 years before its time. Maybe not even now. It's more like 60 or 40 years before its time, and time does scale up, so it could happen faster. But like the Terminator, like Skynet, it's a bunch of well-meaning dudes that kept their code private, and then something either they sold the company or they died, or the AI wrote its own code really fast and in private, and no one could see it happening except for a small group of people who. So you gotta, if the AI is gonna write its code really fast, it has to happen with a public license like GPL, and so you can watch it. At least maybe you can't stop it, but you can at least understand how they got there, so that you can circumvent it.
That's the interesting. You described the Minds not just as a social network, but more as a promotion. What did you say? A
promotional tool.
A promotional tool, because it's like how do you keep I mean, there's a lot of networks out there that have tried to play with getting information out there, keeping it free, keeping it unfettered, and you got like some networks have been completely uncensored, and then they get doxxed and then they get shut down because they're just incorporating everything. Or worse, you got people that really they've heard it and they don't want to hear it anymore. They want to hear other things, so they're trying to allow things to have been heard, but also. So it's like, how do you promote and allow people to promote concepts so that they're at least entertained as ideas and people can share ideas, even especially ethical ones like you're focusing on.
Part of it's like giving them control of the content, like letting them own their own content. So like a decentralized style of net where you have all the rights, you get all the ad revenue for all your content. The content's hashed on like a blockchain so it can be tracked. So like if people share it, you're going to get a portion, if not all of that value.
That's pretty decent. And then like you've been doing that, I've been seeing also in mines, like a bunch of different kinds of people and a bunch of different groups. But every once in a while, some of the content will be shown in a way that's kind of the way Facebook's been doing it, where they try to sell me crap, but instead it's something I might want to see. So it's like it's a lot nicer of an experience because I'm like, oh, actually, you are interested in philosophy. Well, here's a group on philosophy.
I thought so. We were talking about the Jack Dorsey interview on Joe Rogan earlier, Bill. Me and Andreas were, and I thought that one of the things Jack said that was interesting is how you follow hashtags, which I think it's been in our pipeline for a while, and I think that's the way you modify your experience, and then you can like pop from different like presets and be like, oh, I'm in a tree mood today, so I'll go for like carnivorous hashtag seeds hashtag, and then like, no, I want video games hashtag Romance of the Three Kingdoms hashtag. It's right. And then that'd be badass.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point that he was trying to make there is that it's important to follow topics as opposed to just individuals, because getting people to follow individuals outside of their echo chamber is very difficult. But if you're subscribed to a hashtag, then you're more likely to see content on both sides of the spectrum within that specific category. So yeah, I mean, we do now have the ability to you can filter your feed in with hashtags, and we're about to do a huge upgrade with that. And more like Reddit style ranking algorithms for most voted upon and controversial stuff, which has lots of upvotes and downvotes, and for different periods of time, and just giving people as many controls as possible to see what they want to see, and at the same time not censoring stuff that you don't want to see, but just giving people the ability to hide it. So, the thing that Dorsey guides the conversation around is, the policy. And so they just have a very restrictive policy. And so every specific case of censorship that Joe or Gadsad or Sam Harris brought up, he just wouldn't address it, and he would act like he didn't know the answer. When the answer is very clear, they have a very restrictive content policy. So, but that's not helping the internet. That's making the internet much more inflammatory and radicalized.
Well, there's also people that want to be radicalized, and there's like, where do you allow for? I mean, I've seen people that are in the subgenius groups, or they're in like there's Flat Earth, Nation. There's all kinds of people that are entertaining ideas, but it's where it becomes violent, I think, especially towards shutting down other people. They get scared, and people have seen this happen in some of the other networks. They shut down.
Yeah, I mean, look, violence is not acceptable. If it's illegal, it's not acceptable. But beyond that, and like abusing the tech or doxing people and serious harassment, I mean, I just don't really see. It seems like a waste of time to be focused on banning that kind of content when that content is just going to go somewhere else. It's going to get more pissed off. It's just not solving anything. It's like pushing it under the rug.
Right. And you're seeing people that are learning from that a lot.
I was thinking about, we have like this, if it's illegal, it's no good. But like, I don't like to use Hitler all the time, but like Hitler changed the laws so that he could do really nefarious things with the law. So like legal doesn't make it good. Like there's some really bad legal activity. So it's almost like you got to morally judge content. And that's objective.
That's not our job.
Yeah. So how do you, like, violence? Yeah. Saying you're going to attack somebody, that's a violent threat.
Right.
And then that probably doesn't belong on social media, right? Because text is different than video. If you get on a video and you say it and you can justify it, no one's going to ban you. But if you write it in text with no context, except for other text, it's just a bunch of black and white scripts, like lines, it's not enough. Like you need verbal human context to express violence safely.
Yeah. I mean, the US undoubtedly does the best job at having the best free speech laws in the world. So while yes, leaders can create bad laws, we're not lawmakers. We're a platform for communication and we don't want to break the law. So, I mean, I don't think that us interjecting morality onto content and being the dictators is our place. I think that we need to follow the law, and if people want the laws changed, then they should change the laws.
And I think that's really clear when other people like look at what happened to Gab, because promoting things that allowed for things to go beyond that, it had nothing to do with people. I mean, there's all kinds of people with crazy ethics. Like that's not even the issue. It's whether or not it fits within the realm of what is legally acceptable. People like the social world has to not destroy the platform itself, which makes it possible for grandma to post her pictures and for you to talk about the mud flood. And if they can't do that in a legal way, then the entire server in the big physical building will be taken away by lawyers,
Right.
Reality check.
Yeah. Following the law first. And then if it's like 80% of the population is screaming about the law, then of course maybe the tech companies will help you change the law. I mean, it doesn't take that many.
Well,
50% of the population.
Yeah, and I'm not, the Manila Principles, which the EFF outlined, which try to take away liability from digital intermediaries for content requiring a court order. That's like an important, like idealistic sort of like utopian vision about how things would work. But then, I'm not going to lie, in the edge cases in the law, we tend to err on the side of safe because we're not going to risk the whole network for some, ridiculous borderline edge case of, is it inciting imminent violence? Is it obscene? We're not going to risk everybody's communication platform for those extreme types of things, but we want to be more open than anywhere else on the web. And simultaneously, we're building a decentralized version of Minds that doesn't even have our servers, that's not reliant on our servers, so that it's not even our liability. That's sort of the key issue.
And the Manila Principles, I'm pretty fascinated with those. So you want to integrate the Manila Principles into the policy, and just straight up, I'm not. Can you rattle them off?
Elaborate a bit for everyone who doesn't know about the Philippines. You want to say, Bill?
Manila Principles?
Yeah, is that what that's from?
It's from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. It basically says intermediaries should be shielded from liability for third-party content. Content must not be required to be restricted without an order by judicial authority. Requests for restrictions of content must be clear, unambiguous, and follow due process. Laws and content restriction orders and practices must comply with the tests of necessity and proportionality. Laws and consent restriction policies and practices must respect due process. Transparency and accountability must be built into laws and content restriction policies and practices. So it's very difficult to uphold these, because it's basically like saying that whether it's a domain registrar or a social network, this is just their little intro to it. All communication over the internet is facilitated by intermediaries such as internet access providers, social networks, and search engines. The policies governing the legal liability of intermediaries for the content of these communications have an impact on users' rights, including freedom of expression, freedom of association, and their right to privacy. With the aim of protecting freedom of expression and creating an enabling environment for innovation, which balances the needs of governments and other stakeholders, civil society groups from around the world have come together to propose this framework of baseline safeguards and best practices. These are based on international human rights instruments and other international legal frameworks. So, this requires a court order for a digital intermediary to take something down. Now, that is a very especially for a social network, it's way easier for a domain registrar to abide by that than a social network, because we're actually housing the content. A domain registrar, or whatever, a cloud hosting provider, they're providing the service of the content. It's not the actual content itself. So we have more weight on our shoulders. And there's stuff like, if we see an illegal copy of Inception flowing on the net, we know that's illegal. Like, we're realistically gonna take action. We're not gonna wait for a court order for that. So there's nuance with regards to I'm curious what Ian and you think about that, Andres.
Well, it's funny because part of the thing in Santa Cruz is that they have people get arrested often for doing something that's non-constitutional. They'll be like, well, this person was sleeping in public, and they're like, that's illegal. But then they'll say, well, constitutionally, that's not, well, whatever, you have to take it to court. And it takes a while, and then it becomes a constitutional issue. And then 10 years later, we decide, that hate speech is still free speech, but it takes 10 years of McCarthyism, basically. And so, but the thing is, you got to fight for it. And so some of these things are not just laws, they're constitutional things, which maybe in a small town, they say you're not allowed to drink or something. Like, they can make small ordinances, but how do you, on the bigger internet, it becomes like a, who decides these things law thing,
This is why decentralizing your content and having it just spread out amongst the network is so key.
Right.
Okay, so if you had a copy of Inception, say it was a decentralized internet, you had a copy of Inception that you were torrenting to everyone else.
And God forbid you're like,
yeah, everyone's happy, but then deception owners are like, they target your page, right? You had a VPN, they went around your VPN, they sent you a cease and desist. End of story. But then deception's everywhere on everyone's computer, getting torrented to everyone. So, like, is it even worth it to punish? Or are we just translating to a new economy on a new planet where all the information's free?
And I think this is an interesting concept because you guys have been through this. I think a lot of people need to remember, by the way, this is not recorded on Google right now. We're doing this through the Minds thing. We're trying to use Jitsi, which is an open source. Everything involved with this is built on the trippiest open source, free software, freedom of speech, not just beer foundation of ethic. This is the real psyche, like trying to make a difference. And, I think that's also what differentiates the platform. As you said, it's about helping people communicate. It's about helping promote content. It's about helping people learn how to do that. And it's not just going to be on Minds, but one thing also, you guys just recently went through this, right? You guys had a thing where content was being promoted and then Google got upset or something, right? The Play Store. Do you guys want to elaborate on that?
I think no one knows for sure, but I think we had a bug like a few days before where all of our explicit content got unmarked explicit and showed up on front page all over the place. And I think people reported it. It
was really suspicious. It felt really strange to me that happened that way, to be honest, but keep going.
It was sad, but we kind of expected
Go for it.
It's kind of like a live leak style of site, which as long as you have all your filters in place, functions on Google and Apple, but one slip up and we knew we were on thin ice in that sense.
The problem is that Google is so inconsistent with their enforcement. For instance, what they said that the issue was that there was like some nudity. Now, all you have to do, go ahead and have fun and go search porn on Twitter right now and see what you find. You will find lots of legitimate pornography, like penetration, and that's on Google Play.
Yeah, Twitter's got the worst track record with child pornography, with like the craziest stuff.
So they're not banning Twitter, and so that right there you have anti-competitive suggestions, and yeah, I mean we've experienced issues with most of the big networks, Facebook, Apple. And it's just something that we have to deal with. But, at the end of the day, like Ian was saying, we sort of recognize where we think things are moving, which is into more of an open source, decentralized ecosystem. So, that's what we're doing. And we're not going to bend over for, some temporary comfort that, mommy and daddy mainstream social network will give to us. Now, it will be interesting, even in decentralized peer-to-peer networks. Like, look at Napster. I mean, they got shut down, and that was fully peer-to-peer. Now, that was proprietary peer-to-peer, so that probably had a lot to do with its ability to be shut down, because if they had just shared the software of Napster,
right,
somebody it just would have been it would have been invincible. So, we need to, there's always going to be people trying to restrict things. I mean, and in certain circumstances, like, we may even find ourselves wanting to restrict certain content. I don't think it's honest for us to say, I'm not talking about from Mind's perspective. I'm saying, say something leaks of yourself that you really just don't want out there. When you put it on, when you put it onto a decentralized network, you're not taking that down. And so that's why our approach is more, we have centralized network, Minds.com, which is, it uses Ethereum and it uses decentralized services, but it runs on servers. But then we're also going to launch, next week we're all going to be at the Ethereum conference in Denver, focusing on Nomad, which is our peer-to-peer network. And so we're going to have running these in parallel so that the user can basically have more control to decide if they want to be sending stuff into the, digital ether or
I felt
not.
this way about any software since like 1999, 2000. I'm just saying, like, this is really the real stuff. I want you to go in a little bit more on the Nomad. Do you think you can, are you able to talk a bit about some of the stuff and, at least the crypto stuff involved?
Yeah. I mean, it's not too developed yet. The code is at gitlab.com/minds for the prototype, but it uses the Beaker browser, which is just like a regular browser you can download, but it supports the DAT protocol, DAT://. And then next week you'll be able to check it out. But go to DAT://nomad.minds.com, and you'll be able to post basically to a fully peer-to-peer torrent style network where the content is hosted by everyone who's participating in the network, not us. And then the Ethereum addresses basically are used for the username, so you can basically verify that the post is from that address. So on Minds you have an Ethereum wallet, so your Ethereum wallet will basically be your identity on Nomad. And yeah, I mean,
maybe that's something some of these people don't understand crypto. They think it's just like, so why Ethereum is really useful to you guys instead of another one? What makes it kind of like, and why are you using it not as just money? You're kind of using it, sounds like, for information. Like, why is that possible?
Ian, do you want to do that or you want me?
Well, I would assume that the Ethereum token, coin, I guess it is, coin, not a token, I believe, is being used because we're on the Ethereum mainnet, and it's just the easiest. It just seemed like it was the one to use. There's lots of coins, and I guess they're all, maybe, I don't know if they're coins or tokens. To be honest, I don't know the difference.
There's no difference. There's no.
cheapest one for transferring. So you don't. It's the real reason is because people think, oh, it's not worth a lot because you don't make a lot of money trading it. But it's actually because of that it's really great for exchanging information. You know?
No, not really. It's more like Ethereum is a general purpose blockchain that supports smart contracts. So there are some projects that are working on smart contracts for Bitcoin, like Rootstock and stuff. But with smart contracts, you can essentially use a programming language called Solidity to create these contracts, which, you know, you send Ethereum to the contract, and then you can program the contract to do whatever you want when Ethereum is sent to it. So in our case, one of our smart contracts, when you send Ethereum to the contract, it sends you back Mines tokens, which are ERC20 tokens, which you earn for activity on the site, and you can also buy them, and then you can use them to promote your posts or send to other users or get premium services.
And so it's not just like it's like a full, you can write it to be an exchange of whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
So like Steam could take Ethereum and it could be coded to download Divinity Original Sin onto your computer just from getting the Ethereum to that address, and every game would have its own Ethereum address. It would unlock the game download. So there's no middleman. There's no one there saying, okay, the money's in, let them download it now. Yeah, Steam's automated, but it's not trustless. It's still like, I mean,
and
I guess if you have
how long it takes you to trade Ethereum is like lightning fast compared to some of the longer ledgers. Like
so what's the difference of PayPaling an open source software to do a video game download? What's the difference of that versus doing it with fiat with PayPal versus sending them a token to get the download?
Well, I mean, again, like the main difference, I guess, is that PayPal kind of controls it, and they're just saying you have these accounts, and then these are that. What you're saying is we have a piece of paper that's worth this, and we have this paper that's worth that, and we're trading them. You know.
So you're cutting out PayPal or your bank. You're just getting rid of these huge financial institutions, just directly getting your
And like that's kind of what I like about the information exchange. It becomes direct, and like you've turned yourself from a bank into a bazaar, an exchanging ground.
And it's some people feel safer leaving their money in other people's hands, like the armed bank. They're dudes with the machine guns at the front door, as opposed to in my closet. So that's where it is like the Wild West of finance. What's that?
You can get people to defend your content. You know, that can be something incorporated into a bazaar. Like you guys have encryption in your messaging. You know what I mean? People, if you want to go and check out Minds. It's like, it's legit. You can get a messenger account and you can make an encrypted message, which, you know, then is 256 hash, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like it's great. And you just, each time you can change it, you can burn it a password and make a new password. It's, you know, there's nothing like it. It really beats the options.
And MetaMask, I just that software is phenomenal. Like it's just a mobile. Say it again.
Sorry, I was saying built on Ethereum. A great MetaMask is important, you know.
Dude, the fact that you can securely carry your crypto around browser is like definitely a step in like the future of security, financial security.
Someone keeps asking me about my shirts. I'm not going to tell you, but I mean, they're my grandpa's. Anyway.
By the way, Bill. Andreas, I think that if you probably haven't been doing it on this call, but I think that you are the controller for, if you switch our videos, I think that would be what shows up into the YouTube. I haven't tested that, but I don't think it detects voice like the Google Hangouts does. So it's probably been your beautiful face on, you know, full screen the whole time, but that's all good.
I bet you it's your face.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. I can't tell for sure. We'll see. If I click, how does that work? I don't know. I see me now. Oh man, there I am. And there's you again. I think it just goes back. I think it is. I think it works on the microphone as far as I can tell.
Oh, it does?
Well,
I'll be curious as we rewatch. But yeah, everyone watching, this is our first time doing this live from mine. So make sure to hit us up.
Join the Tartaria group. Tartaria.
Yeah, and
both are right.
Tartaria. I think that people need to get.
Can we talk just as a little bit about Tartaria? Maybe tangent. Okay, it's an ancient race. the Tartars, right?
Also,
And it's just,
that's where, okay, there's a lot of stuff that people have been throwing around about the Tatars being the Tartarians. But the Tartarians are more like a confederation of peoples. And we're now finding out about Zealandia, which is a video that's coming out today in about 2 hours, because I've got some experts on star forts. So the bastion forts, basically we're finding these remnants of a civilization everywhere. And it's kind of like a mud flood covered this civilization, and we're digging it up in the last couple hundred years. And it's like Atlantis, but it's more recent. So,
So it was a civilization that was really advanced that got wiped out in some sort of war that was hushed up.
Could have been a war, could have been an environmental disaster, could have been a supernatural disaster, could have been,
But the idea is that they were like snuffed out by the victors of history. Like the victor tells them. Okay.
People were acting like they're giants is a big part of it, or they're connected to the giants that were, because there's a lot of stories of giants and there's bones of giants. They're saying, well, this was kind of the remnants of the giants, and then there's these people that are all different races, and they're all connected to different humanoids, and we're all part of this bigger thing that was called Tartaria, which people work together in different places. And even some of those people, like families, would have gone to different lands because there would have been need for different trades from the same school, and so it's kind of a primal system of that was not about war so much, or about any sort of imperial, there was not a dictator to this system. That's what we're finding, because it wouldn't have been possible, but there would have been more. And it's also why today we're finding that there's a lot of people who've known about this. It's not like some new thing, something that for the last few hundred years people have had stories of. And like it shows up in esoteric literature a lot, and the vegetable sheep. And so now we're all finding it real.
I've been watching a lot of like war history, ancient history, Baz battles on YouTube, Kings and Generals on YouTube, and it learned a lot about the victor covering up the loser of history, like Vercingetorix and Caesar. Caesar just did not write about this guy. Vercingetorix did not want people to know what a great man he was, and how great So if there's a more recent version of that, and that's has to do with Tesla's energy, the idea, energy coils, the idea that free energy or freedom in general, decentralized unity, I think it fits right in.
I mean, it's the thing is, basically it's that all of that, it's real, it existed, it was recent, and they tried to hide, but there's Tesla towers everywhere at one point, not but a few centuries ago. And if you start looking into Indonesia and some of the stuff about free energy and this idea of remember when we were in the rainforest, and it's like all day long are lightning storms, because these trees are grounded down. They create this moisture, which creates these lightning storms, which then can run. And then you have this very, very powerful place. And then there's temples there, and what if that's part of the deal, was that they had energy systems that were harnessing natural energy? I mean, it's what we're talking about doing as soon as we can figure out how to do it. But they might have been.
Wait, what are you saying, that there were Tesla towers centuries ago?
Yeah, that's part of the at least the investigation into Tartaria. And there's a lot of people that are doing research, and what they're finding is evidence.
Like who?
Well, there's Martin Liedtke. There's a bunch of there's Philip Trezhinin. A couple of the guys. One of the guys actually disappeared, off the YouTube, and he was doing some really great videos. But all of a sudden just dropped off. But I mean, there's probably like hundreds of people now that are talking about it. It's kind of the new flat Earth. It's the next thing. And
oh boy.
The Baghdad Battery was like a clay pot with vinegar in it, with an iron rod wrapped with copper wire, which produces an electrical charge. So if you have lightning outside that's sparking your, stone or granite pyramid, your crystalline rocked pyramid, that would hypercharge the battery, I would think.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is we're basically just now figuring out how to do the stuff that we've been talking about. I mean, all of these stories are about the ancient civilizations having secrets, they weren't just magic. They had technology in ancient Egypt. It's everyone's backstory.
And even today,
there's a, I have no idea what I believe about all this, but there is this one Minds channel called, Ancient-Origins. I don't know if you've checked them out, but they're pretty funny. I definitely support the investigation and but
you're a healthy skeptic.
but I mean, I think that it's all about tone when talking about these things, and I think where you lose 90% of people is when, like, okay, it's fine to get like stoked about the possibility of something, but like everyone will leave if you act like
Right.
and so as long as it's done in a way that is not like claiming truth, and I would say that sort of principle applies to like literally every field. And I'm not saying that you're acting like that. It seems like you're very, very exploratory. Or would you say that like you are convinced?
I'm trying my best to do that. There are some things, of course, I feel very, I'm still young and pretentious, but as I get older, I'm less and less convinced, which helps. But there are some philosophical things, I think, like Ian, I'm like, well, if it was done right, I think it'd have to be like this. And then I look into things, and we're trying to just objectively show these things. Now, I think my audience will say, obviously, like, I've got a bias, because I'll tell them I have a bias. I have a thought that things are not the way that we've been told by the winners of history. Usually, I tend to think fake history, fake news. But other than that, I'm totally open, and I'm not going to tell you that the planet is flat or a cat, or I'll tell you it's electric, it's holographic, but I tend to like let everyone kind of just live in their own psyche on that level.
I read a really cool book recently called it was a Orwell anthology called Truth. And it was like every passage from everything that he's ever written, talking about like basically, the people who rewrite history and who have control over the modern consensus of what truth is based on controlling the information mediums. I definitely recommend everyone check it out. It's really good. It's just called Truth, by Orwell. So it's an anthology. It just came out.
I can't wait.
What's that?
Eric Blair, right? Tony Blair's great uncle was George Orwell. Eric Blair. He's born in India, and he was related. So he'd seen the inside kind of the system, and he kind of
Yeah, Bill and I were involved in this truth movement. They said probably in the 2011, 2012, it was really heating up, and that was the problem with it, is that it's so your idea of what truth is such perception of your own perception and what you've been told and who told you, like why, what's their agenda, like, and everyone sees a different. If you're like, oh, that box is blue, they're like, oh, that box is red because the sun's hitting it from one angle, and so you're seeing the photo negative of it, and like you're both right. The truth, like. And so this word is so dangerous, truth, like just avoid, and like Bill's saying, to be in a state of like, I know the answer, like it's so dangerous.
I mean, people will be so angry when you show, like, I'll get people that are like, why are you showing a globe? You know what I mean? It's like, I might be okay to show a flat earth map too, in the same 30 seconds or less. But just because I also showed the other.
Wait, but all right, I just have to jump in on I don't want to go too deep into this. It's going to come back and bite me. But like, honestly, how is anyone even trying to say that? That's a joke. It's not. I mean,
I think
SpaceX is taking video. Like it's not. They're not all part of it.
It's gonna bite you. Yeah, I think you'll find that a lot of people will just get brutally angry.
No, I know.
Talking about the flat earth jokesters.
Might want to just watch the Joe Rogan, where Joe Rogan gets brutally angry about his friend who, I think Franco, he believes that everything's a lie. And you just need to understand the pathology of believing that everything is a lie, first off. And then also
Eddie
Bravo's trolling. Yeah, he knows it. It's all one or the other. And it's like, why not just troll?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, is that there are people that are trolling it, and are people that are definitely part of some sort of a psy-op. I mean, I do think that there is something to the idea of testing the internet to convince people what they believe outside. But having said that, there's a lot of interesting stuff about flat Earth.
He's not trolling it; he's testing it. Eddie,
I would
And
walk
he's
away from
testing
something,
Joe when he does
until
that. He's not trolling.
you've flown across it until you've got a photo of it. We're still living in a world where people are going to argue over it. And I think
Oh no, that's fine. I respect the right to argue, but it's just funny that like, you know, no one who believes that has ever launched a rocket into space. Like maybe the people who believe that should, you know, as opposed to arguing about it on the internet, like maybe you should go talk, you know, build a rocket, like go talk to Elon or
I think you need to learn the rules of this game, see? Because the idea is that there's a flat Earth that's on the back of a turtle shell kind of thing, and there's a firmament, and outside's water, and then the underneath is, you know, you go under. So Elon Musk is going to space by Boring Company, trying to get in out of the hollow Earth, you know, and get out into space, and then that connects to their whole thing with.
Well, this originates from they used to really believe it, right?
And that's the other thing is this is all based on actual stuff from thousands of years ago. The Sumerians, Mayans, the only people that you'll find that have a picture of not a flat Earth are NASA. And NASA is, you know, it doesn't mean to lie. Actually,
it's just like trolling people, like yeah, you know, like computers aren't real. You know, like oh yeah. Oh, it's not going to be Sunday tomorrow, and they're like, it's Saturday. Of course, it's like nope, not tomorrow. And that's it's like that. It's like. We already figured it out. It's the most obvious thing. What can you troll someone with? The most obvious thing. So yeah, the Earth is.
Yeah, exactly. No, right. I mean, there's, even getting pulled into the argument is like a ridiculous.
You're getting baited by it. Yeah, that's.
I'm not.
What,
I'm just.
You're not. But that's what getting pulled in is being baited by that concept. It's not even. It's just like the most generic troll method. Like what else? Like
completely say, do you believe in everything about you being a lie? Do you think that everything that you've ever been told?
Yeah, like there's so many problems on Earth to focus on, and if you're gonna like, I don't want to get like I don't even know.
And they can walk away from everything. You know, I've seen a lot of people walk away from
flat Earth, Sasquatch. What else is there? Aliens coming to Earth. Zero proof for it.
I don't think they're all mutually dependent. I mean, this whole idea that it's all or nothing is, I mean, that is not a legitimate way to look at things. Like you have to take everything on a case by case basis. I mean, it's just because you entertain one does not mean that is just like, and people who allow themselves to get pulled into these tribes of thinking about it's not identity politics, it's like identity conspiracy.
It's like use was right around the Kennedy assassination in 1963. The CIA, we now disclosed, invented the term to describe, you know, anybody looking into it at all.
Right.
So it's that would be, what do they call, counter opposition or
tell someone like, hey, if you ever learn about this thing, it's crazy. You know, Bigfoot is associated with, you know, possibly a terrorist attack of some kind or a false flag.
So the word conspiracy is controlled opposition from the CIA.
Yeah.
They created a group to put people in. I see.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, go ahead.
No.
And if you allow your mind to think like it, then you're allowing yourself to be controlled by the CIA. So you don't want to ever conflate weird ideas.
When Lee Harvey Oswald tried to stop the assassination attempt, according to, you know, records, he actually went in and contacted Kennedy. And we now, in the recent Freedom of Information papers that came out this last 6 months, found this out. But what we looked into was his court proceedings. And 11 or 12 minutes of it, 18 minutes of his court is just about his religion, the Church of Discordia. So he worshipped Chaos and Eris, and that actually gets me into K-Order, because you know the Bill Hess. Is that right? Bill Hess. Chaotic principles. Do you know about the guy who started the ATM machine? D. Hawk. Have you heard of this guy? Okay, so D. Hawk started this concept. I'm going to send you a link to it, and you can check it out at your own time. But it's about starting a company or an idea that has looseness to it, but it has these basic principles. And it's basically like what Minds is. What would you say are your basic principles that if everything and all these people are getting a part of your conversation and changing things and flat earth and blah, 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 what are the core things that you want to save in like 5 years or 100 years? What do you want it to be that's still there?
I mean, the subtopics are irrelevant. Like if people want to debate all of these issues, they should. I mean, and I'm certainly not claiming to know truth about any of it, but that's the subtopics are not what matters. Anything as much as possible should be able to be discussed in the digital mediums. That's the point. And because if you're limiting access to information, then you're limiting the conversation and you're limiting our ability to, figure out what the answers are. So I don't think it's really about, it's about the principles as opposed to the content itself.
So in a situation like where Minds is growing and, people are starting to see it, they're going to jump off and there's all these scattered things. What is it that you would say Minds does that keeps it relevant, that it's still here, Like, why is it?
Ian?
Video, I would say that the video chat hub people, I mean, on what level? Minds is a technology company. It exists on at least, I could see 7 different levels of concept right now. And we've probably implemented 2 of them, which is like community gathering and technology, like website technology. You could argue that blockchain's a 3rd technology. 4th is like geopolitical, which we haven't even touched. It's touched us because we're a giant technology company. 5th, if you want to go like space travel, deep space colonization, and like 6th and 7th, like society building, and then of course 7th, if you're going to go like extragalactic solar, like sustainability, this concept of it's just a basic, simple concept of free software. We have to create societies that function around Richard Stallman's dream of free software in order for us to coagulate with AI. My beliefs. I'm sorry to interrupt you there at the end there. What were you saying?
I do. I had to work on my interview skills. I'm sorry. I was just saying, I believe that that's the most beautiful way.
Yeah, man. Free software. Like if you could create a legit full on, I don't see any, well, yeah, I don't want to, I digress. I think that's what we're doing is like we're building to we're scaling out this concept of freedom at a systemic level. Like we're writing the Constitution, but not for the United States government, for all of humanity.
The open source quality is so key. I just really hope my audience and everyone that sees this video get that, because this is why I believe so hard.
Let me explain it. It's very different than open source. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but free software and open source software are 2 different kinds of licenses. Free software ensures that if you take that software and change it, it's going to stay free. You can't change the code, the license in private. It's always forever forward. We'll all be able to see where it goes and what it does. Whereas open source, I could take and make it private and change it. Equally as dangerous as private code. So we need a free software.
Sorry, yes. Free, not open.
Don't turn me on to Richard Stallman. Say it again.
Free, not open. Free.
Yeah, so Richard Stallman calls it GNU, and I think if we just call it new and say that it's new Linux, we'll be able to sell it 100 million, billion of them, let's just sell 1 billion of them around the globe, get people to say new Linux.
It'll never happen.
Just do it against his will. He'll be so frustrated, and I'll love it.
Right. All right, I got it, guys. I got to hop, but
it's really fantastic. I think everyone got a lot out of this.
And I want to make sure that, for anyone listening, that that, like I was talking about, the topics are irrelevant. They matter, but they're sort of a secondary layer. So whether or not it has nothing to do with that, whether or not any of us agree on anything, that should have nothing to do with our ability to interoperate in a network, coexist, communicate, and yeah, that's probably one of the biggest problems that's rippling into the big networks right now, is that they are enforcing their ideas upon, what the community should think.
You'll
It's
defend
interesting.
it if you have the right to say it.
Yeah, you walk a fun line because as the CEO of a tech company that's very neutral, that like helps like everybody kind of find a meeting place. You also get to do like an opinion piece, like be yourself, let your human mind flourish, say what you think without editing it. So it's kind of like I've kind of been there and kind of toggled in and out of that lane, and I'm interested to see where you take it.
Yeah, I mean, that is the hard part about, for instance, with a controversial topic, or yeah, I mean, I'm tending to more, express the state of the information that I have about the topic, but it's always coming back to principles for me on every topic. Like, because I've already gone through the stage of like basically allowing myself to believe things are true just because I'm, watching extensive documentaries on the internet, and then like suddenly I find myself being sort of an agent for that information, even though that I haven't really verified that information enough for myself. And then you start trying to convince people of things because you feel like what's true. And like the only things that I've come away from, like, 10 years of diving into a million different topics online, is the principles. Those are the only thing that I feel like I've come out with. Truth, not truth so much as transparency, digital rights, access to information. These are the things that I can stand by, and that having that is what's going to allow us to learn more information about what is actually true on all of the different subtopics. So, that
You want to
that's
keep
why
the conversation going. You're keeping
yeah,
the conversation from ending, whatever it's about, whoever's in it.
yeah, no, and it applies to government too. Like with, all the questions that everybody has about, the state of technology, or like secret technology and history, freedom of information, FOIA, like work on that. Work on, getting the information out. And I know that, yeah, there's a lot that's already out there, but I mean, that it just, the more pragmatic battle is to try to unlock the information that is being hidden from us, um, whether it's software code or, classified information.
And sometimes I think the information that you need is in places you don't want to look, which is why you haven't found it yet. And that can be like annoying people, like people you don't like, people you don't agree with. If you listen to them, they'll enlighten you about things you know.
Yeah, no, I listened to the Eric Weinstein talk through Rebel Wisdom, which is a pretty cool YouTube channel that covers like intellectual dark web type people. And he was talking about how, often we talk about we're standing on the shoulders of giants, in that, our inventions are built upon the inventions of these, amazing people from the past. But he clarifies that to say that we're standing on the shoulders of assholes. So a lot of the people who have invented essential technologies, or, stumbled upon breakthroughs, they have components of their lives which are, many of them, whether they're racists or, horrible people, like racists were also great rocket scientists who brought us further. So his whole point is that when you expel those people from networks like Twitter, or, the digital realms in general, you are stifling our general innovation. And, the reality is that people are very complex, and, as long as we're not, being violent and X, Y, and Z that we already talked about, we need to be able to engage each other. Otherwise, we're going to move really slow.
Absolutely, and a system of redemption. I mean, there's gonna be so many people after this McCarthy era that what are there gonna be 70, and then there's 17. They said something online. They're gonna have to be a redemption path, like getting back in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad that seems to be on Joe's and Red Band's podcast. They were talking about the redemption path, and Sam Harris too. That Joe and him were, in understanding what this looks like. We actually need to outline a better redemption path on Minds as well, because yeah, I mean, a few people have been banned from Minds for like abusing the platform like super hard and like spamming threads with porn, and blah blah blah.
Someone threatened with murder somebody in the group, and I had to block them. I gave them at first when they were just being threatening. I tried to calm them down, but when it was like to threaten someone's life, and I already had a warning, not 3. Life isn't baseball, Like there has to be.
I think strike 2, you're out when it comes to violence if you're compassionate, because it's a one-strike violence.
Yeah, if you're compassionate, real violence can be strike 1. But like if you are threatening. But just being angry once, we're like, hey, you can't take over the form.
What if the baseball batter was thrown out of the game if they struck out? It'd be the most boring sport in the world. And that's basically what happens on Twitter when someone, everyone gets to bat again. You might have fucked up last time. It's okay.
I mean, yeah. And then this is sort of a core issue. Right now, you have people who have been expelled from the public forum who are freaking out. And then, so you have on one hand, you want to stick to sort of a principle and like have humans be self-disciplined so that they don't just, go and threaten violence, or like, as Sam Harris was talking about in the Rogan podcast, if you really dig into free will, ultimately you drill down into the neurochemical layer, and at some distant point in, whether it's 1,000 years or whatever, there could theoretically be a pill that could, fix murderers, that could stop people from exhibiting these psychopathic tendencies. So, is there a path to redemption for them? If, there have been cases of murderers who had brain tumors and but unfortunately, when you dig into the free will argument, it sort of takes responsibility away from the individual, because you realize, it's more of like a deterministic chain reaction of events that have caused us to become who we are. So you have a battle taking place between people who, are fighting for that sort of free will sort of sense of responsibility, and you have to take responsibility over your actions online or in the real, or in real life or wherever.
There's a lot of actions that wouldn't have been, they would have made pills to make people not homosexual, 100 years ago, and then they wouldn't do that today. So where are we going to fit the pathology on what is actually socially acceptable, or what we really want to stop because it's hurting individuals in a society? But I like that you're trying to fix
it's the way you stop it. Like, you could stop it with a pill that zaps their mind, or you could do it with therapy and they're actually helping people afterwards. And it's like 2 different realms. It's like night and oranges. Like, you have to do it with therapy. Maybe you can use ecstasy or like MDMA or psilocybin in conjunction with the therapy. Maybe a psychopath could go into a dark tank with psilocybin and come out a healthy, loving individual. But it's like the community that really can rehabilitate.
Yes, and nurturers, you have to go through a process, and sometimes the chemicals can help you feel okay to go through the process, but it's not the process. The process has to be guided.
So maybe if other users on the network condone the reemergence of the user, it's out of the network's hands.
Yeah, I think that kind of community voting is I think that's a good way to think about it.
I think also having a certain amount of you guys making decisions, sometimes being like, sometimes we're going to let people back on, even if, we get, or sometimes we're going to have to say, regardless of if 99% of people want a free hat can't go back online, but the point is, you're the only network I know that actually is tackling and wrestling with these right now. I think some of these bigger kids want to wait and see how you guys handle the problem. So it's cool that you're actually thinking about it at all and making strides in it.
Nice.
I thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks. Let's do it again.
Thanks for that.
Later.
Peace.
Peace, guys.